He took his scalp, horse, and gun. By this time our party was some distance ahead. We followed on and saw several white men lying dead on the way. After riding about 6 miles, we met our party returning. We asked them how many of our men had been killed. They said none, after the Americans retreated. We inquired then how many whites had been killed. They replied that they did not know, but said we will soon ascertain, as we must scalp them as we go back. On our return we found 10 men besides the 2 we had killed before we joined our friends. Seeing that they did not yet recognize us, it being dark, we again asked how many of our braves had been killed. They said 5. We asked who they were. They replied that the first party of 3 who went out to meet the American war chief had all been taken prisoners and killed in the encampment, and that out of a party of 5 who followed to see the meeting of the first party and the whites, 2 had been killed. We were now certain that they did not recognize us, nor did we tell them who we were until we arrived at our camp. The news of our death had reached it some time before, and all were surprised to see us again. The next morning I told the crier of my village to give notice that we must go and bury our dead. In a little while all were ready. A small deputation was sent for our absent warriors, and the remainder started. We first disposed of our dead, and then commenced an examination in the enemy's deserted encampment for plunder. We found arms, ammunition, and provisions, all which we were in want of, particularly the latter, as we were entirely without. We found also a variety of saddlebags, which I distributed among my braves, and a small quantity of whiskey, and some little barrels that had contained this bad medicine. But they were empty. I was surprised to find that the whites carried whiskey with them, as I had understood that all the pale faces belonged to the temperance societies. The enemy's encampment was in a skirt of woods near a run about half a day's travel from Dixon's Ferry. We attacked them in the prairie with a few bushes between us about sundown, and I expected that my whole party would be killed. I never was so much surprised in all the fighting I have seen, knowing, too, that the Americans generally shoot well, as I was to see this army of several hundreds retreating, without showing fight, and passing immediately through their encampment. I did think that they intended to halt here, as the situation would have forbidden attack by my party if their number had not exceeded half mine, as we should have been compelled to take the open prairie, whilst they could have picked trees to shield themselves from our fire. Never was I so much surprised in my life as I was in this attack. An army of 300 or 400, after having learned that we were suing for peace, to attempt to kill the flag-bearers that had gone, unarmed, to ask for a meeting of the war chiefs of the 2 contending parties to hold a council that I might return to the west side of the Mississippi to come forward with a full determination to demolish the few braves I had with me, to retreat when they had 10 to 1 was unaccountable to me. It proved a different spirit from any I had ever before seen among the pale faces. I expected to see them fight as the Americans did with the British during the last war, but they had no such braves among them. I had resolved upon giving up the war, and sent a flag of peace to the American war chief, expecting, as a matter of right, reason, and justice, that our flag would be respected. I have always seen it so in war among the whites, and a council convened that we might explain our grievances, having been driven from our village the year before without being permitted to gather the corn and provisions which our women had labored hard to cultivate, and ask for permission to return, thereby giving up all idea of going to war against the whites. Yet, instead of this honorable course, which I have always practiced in war, I was forced into war, with about 500 warriors to contend against 3,000 or 4,000. The supplies that Neapope and the prophet told us of.